sharing with you the best goal-setting insights from Diary of a CEO as he interviews Chris Williamson, of course shared through a financial lens for your financial benefit and success. Hello and welcome back to SugarMamma's Fireplay. I am Canna Campbell. I'm a financial planner, I'm an investor, I'm a mother of three, and I'm someone who genuinely believes that good goals, great goals, create a really important sense of calmness and tranquility, but also clarity and freedom. And I say this with my hand on my heart because I wholeheartedly believe that there is no way I would be where I am today, financially, emotionally, and physically, if it wasn't for the goals that I set for myself at the beginning of every single year, but also the goals that I work on consistently throughout the year with love, devotion, and dedication. So today's episode is a little bit different, but I think you're going to absolutely love this and find so much value in what I'm about to share with you. So to backtrack a little bit, I recently listened to a 2.5-hour episode of Diary of the CEO, and he was interviewing Chris Williamson, and it was all about goal setting, how to create focus, the effort and that long-term thinking that we all need to achieve our goals, and most importantly, how to stop wasting our life and time. Now, there were so many really great, powerful concepts and ideas shared throughout this episode, but I couldn't stop thinking to myself, most people don't have the time or the headspace to listen to something this long. 2.5 hours is a lot. Especially if you're stopping and starting all the time, or you don't have 2.5 hours just to sit through the whole thing from start to finish. What I do was make notes, lots of notes. And when I was making these notes while I was listening to this episode, in fact, I was even re-listening and going back and replaying multiple times certain high-value parts so I could pull out the most powerful ideas. And some of them I actually even filtered through my own financial planning lens to add even more value and I guess importance and I guess, sorry, say it again. I'll go back a bit. So I started making notes, in fact, lots of notes, whilst listening to this episode, even re-listening to certain high-value parts multiple times and pulling out, the most powerful ideas. And some of them I then filtered through my own financial planning lens so I could make them even more valuable for you and your bank balances, your investment portfolios, and your superannuation funds. And I translated them into some really practical insights that you can use today if you wanted to. And this is particularly focused around money, investing, energy, and of course, our life direction, because I'm not just about money and financial freedom. I'm actually very much also about our own personal growth and development in life so that we live our best lives possible. So to be really clear, this episode is not a summary of the Diary of a CEO's advice. It's not a replay, but instead it's the best bits, the juiciest bits, the most helpful bits. And it's all about giving you the best insights I possibly can. And I've created this just for you so that this year can not only be a better year, it can be a bigger year and so much more rewarding for you and for I. So let us begin. All right, insight number 1, and that is stop waiting for the right time. One of the strongest themes throughout this episode was the idea that waiting keeps people stuck, so stuck. So many goals fail before they've even started because we tell ourselves, okay, I'll start when things calm down or when the kids are back to school, or I'll start when I, get that promotion or I earn more, or I'll start when, life feels a bit easier, or I'll start once I get through this or that. But here's the reality. Life does not pause for anyone. I know this sounds really harsh, but there's always going to be something that will be in your life that is trying to stop you or hold you back. A bill, a distraction, a temptation. But the trick here is to see this trap that really is toxic, and then say, you know what, stuff it, walk all over it and get started anyway. Regardless of what needs to be done, what needs to be finished, or what even actually needs to be received to get started. You need to be aware that financially, waiting for that person, that thing, that opportunity to happen can be incredibly expensive and also costly to you and your future success. And this is what I'm talking about when it comes to getting started with investing, getting started with that savings account, getting started with paying off that debt, or getting started with, say, in contributing to your superannuation account. You've got to start seeing all these things around you and decide to do it anyway. Time is your biggest asset, so stop wasting it. And in fact, the sooner that you start, it's going to be so much easier for yourself. You'll wonder why you wasted so much time the moment you actually begin. So the biggest takeaway from this particular insight isn't actually about panicking or rushing in or like overwhelming yourself. No, it's just simply to get started, even if it means imperfectly, like writing down a goal of yours, a financial goal in detail with like a deadline and opening that online share trading account or making that first debt repayment, because just getting started is actually perfect. So from a practical point of view, to start and start easy, just start small, start where you are. Momentum beats perfect timing every time. So allow yourself to level up the moment you can, but just get started right now. And I promise you, if you do this, you will be unrecognizable by the end of this year. If you can genuinely start right now today, in this very moment, and do one simple small thing for that particular goal, and in fact back it up by doing another small thing for it tomorrow and the day after and the day after, you will open up the most incredible path for yourself, and you will have such a different financial future with so much more financial growth for yourself. All right, insight number 2, and that is to think return on effort, not just hustle. Now, this was a really powerful idea that was explored on this episode, and the concept was a return on effort or return on investment. This wasn't just about like return on money, but actually the return on the time that you invest, the energy and mental load that you invest, and of course the emotional load. Now, this really resonated with me, especially from a financial planning perspective, because sometimes the most responsible decision or responsible financial goal isn't actually the one that looks best on paper, but it's the one that actually supports your life holistically. All right, let me give you an example. Let's take the idea or the goal of paying off more of your mortgage. Now, yes, that is 100% sensible. That is 100% wise. But what if we look at this as a return on effort or return on investment? And instead, perhaps find a better sense of balance where we look at using maybe some of that money to improve your family life, to reduce the stress. Perhaps it's help pay for more help around the home, such as a cleaner or a weekly babysitter or some form of support. Or perhaps using some of that money to go on a family holiday, or even something like adding value to your home by doing some, small improvements or even renovations. They can still be like really strong decisions that are filled with actually like wider benefits. And this one really hit me hard, so much so that last minute I shifted one of my biggest financial goals for this year from trying to pay off more of our mortgage to actually instead improving some of the comfort factors of our home, making it more of a wellness sanctuary, and for me and my kids and for Tom, and to actually help invest in creating a home that has, I guess, greater space for that wholesome sense of fun and connection. So the lesson here is goals shouldn't just be evaluated on the financial return, but actually on the overall impact and uplift in your own personal life. So think return on effort. Ask yourself, what actually does give me the best return right now beyond the dollars? And where is the emotional uplift for me? And how can I find a way to balance both of these benefits to get the best of both worlds by working on one particular goal? And if you can do this, it is the smartest and most efficient return on investment for you and, of course, for all of your loved ones around you. Insight number 3, remove before you add. Now, there was this reoccurring theme throughout this episode, and it was all around overload. Now, as someone who can quite often get a little bit overexcited at the beginning of the year, I'm feeling very motivated and very inspired. I often can very easily create, 235 different goals myself. And The results are scatty, flaky, and just a mess. So for me, this particular advice was really timely and a good reminder and very valuable. In fact, I learned about this particular technique a couple of years ago, and it's the hardest one for me to follow, but I think it's also one of the most important ones to understand and do. So most people don't fail because they lack motivation. They fail because they try and do too much at once. I'll say that again. Most people don't fail because they lack motivation. They fail because they try and do too much at once. Too many things at the same time. It's that famous saying, you can have everything but not all at the same time. So before you go and set a new goal, it's worth asking yourself, what should I put down before I pick up? What can I simplify in my life? What can I press pause on while I focus on this as a priority? What am I already doing that actually no longer serves me and I can cross off the list? Now, from a money perspective, this often looks like too many savings accounts, too many financial goals, which I'm guilty of, too many investment accounts, particularly too many micro investing accounts, which is something I see that's very, very common, or too many shoulds. At the end of the day, it's the clarity and the impactful progress that comes from subtraction, not addition. And this is the exact reason why I have learned to cap my number of goals to an absolute maximum of 5, where I'm not allowed to add any new ones until all 5 are done. They're ticked off. So for example, I'll work through my 5 goals and I may have ticked off 2. That doesn't mean I can add another 2. It means no, you must work through all 5 until all 5 are ticked off before you start adding more. And quite often I get to the 5th one and, the year has come to an end anyway. So I would have shot myself in the foot if I had done this. It's just a really powerful act of self-discipline. And it really does, I guess, make you be really dedicated and certain about the goals that you want to work on, particularly at the beginning of the year. So you have to be really exclusive and selective as to what is worthy of working on in your year, because you've only got, say, 5 goals. And it takes a huge amount of discipline to do this. But it was definitely one of the best hacks that I learned a few years ago, and one that has added so much value to my actual progress. And I'll tell you what, looking at your goals and realize the progress you're making feels so good, and it fuels you to keep going. So keep your goals simple, keep them meaningful, but keep them exclusively limited. All right, insight number 4. And that is planning for life happening. So this was another important takeaway from this episode, and that was the realism around setbacks. Life doesn't derail goals. Unplanned rigidity does. I'm going to say that again because it's really important. Life doesn't derail goals. Unplanned rigidity does. Life is always going to be filled with unexpected expenses, low energy weeks where you're, not feeling well or just feeling flat, family needs, health issues, and changes with your work situation or changes even with your work routine. So you need to remember this and put this into action. A good goal strategy always assumes interruptions will happen. And a good goal strategy always has a backup plan to help you get back on the horse so that quitting is never an option. So this isn't about manifesting disaster or drama or conflict or failure even. It's about manifesting smart, intelligent safety nets that can catch you if you fall and help you get back on track. So the question I would be asking myself is, how do I get back on track quickly if something happens? How do I do this without guilt keeping me stuck or punishing myself? And how do I minimize damage and quickly catch up for any possible lost time along the way? From a financial lens, this means having buffers in your budget, say rounding up everything in your budget, say by 10%, or having a reasonable sense of flexibility within your goals where you can potentially tweak and change them if necessary, such as extending deadlines or the amounts that you were going to save or invest or put into superannuation. It's about having systems in place that actually can absorb these natural, normal shocks that happen as part of life. And yes, of course, this includes emergency money as well. So when things happen in life, which they do, stopping is not failure. What is failure is actually not restarting. So we need to be real as to the reality of life and prioritizing building the mindset and systems that get us back on our feet again, even when we are knocked down brutally. We need to make sure that we are resilient. We're even bulletproof. Now, a classic example of just weird things happening in life is the story of a cockroach. So at the end of 2025, just as I was getting towards the very end of my goals for the year, I jumped out of the shower, and I'm going to tell the details of the story so you don't think I'm a scaredy cat because a cockroach jumped on me. So to put this into perspective, I jumped out of the shower, I had a towel wrapped around me, a very small one, and I was watching a cockroach running away from me. And this, by the way, this cockroach was gigantic. It was running away from me, and I was so tired. It was about 9:30 at night. I'd put the kids to bed, and all I could think of was, I'm so tired. And I was staring at this cockroach running away, and I was thinking to myself, do I get the can and spray it now, or do I just leave it and deal with it tomorrow? Anyway, as I'm trying to decide what to do, the cockroach turns around, faces me, and jumps on me. Now, being naked, it jumped on my inner thigh and went up my inner thigh. So naturally, I jumped. But the problem was I jumped one way and my leg jumped the other. And I heard and felt my ACL tear. Came crashing down to the ground. Now, I shared the extra detail with you so you don't think, oh my gosh, can I just jumped because she saw a cockroach? That wasn't it. I was naked. It jumped on my inner thigh. Anyway, what happened here was I ended up needing ACL surgery, a knee reconstruction, and I was out of pocket over $9,000 and still counting. And yes, I do have top cover private health insurance in place. But this is an example of having a good sense of reality of things that happen in life. Setbacks, blocks, cockroaches jumping on you in the middle of the night. This is part of life. And because I had emergency money, it didn't stop me on the progress of my goals. Yes, I had to go to hospital. Yes, I had to spend lots of money getting, this recovery and rehab in place. But were my goals impacted? Actually, no, not really, because I had a good sense of what the real world looks like and what happens as a natural part of life, things that happen for me, not to me, and those safety nets supported me. So make sure you have savings accounts. Make sure you round up your budget. Make sure you understand what the real risks are in your life and what they possibly look at. This is so incredibly important because it will stop you from stopping. It will allow you to quickly catch up again and to continue on seeing all that incredible progress that you are worthy of achieving. All right, insight number 5, and that is looking at goals and looking at the systems behind your goals for success. Now, there is a very strong element of my own interpretation behind this particular part of the episode, and it's something that, I picked up in listening to this, but I also want to apply this in a very practical way. So the biggest reason goals fail is because people rely on their motivation. So when it comes to motivation, of course, that is essential. But what I always do is try and convert my goals into systems, but even better, into habits. And I start with creating an amazing sense of clarity and meaning behind each of the goals that I'm working on. So much so that I become so passionate and so connected, and I can build up a habit system behind each goal so that success is almost organic. It is my default behavior to work on that goal, to see that goal succeed step by step, even if it's only baby steps, but all the way through as it continues to flourish and flourish and flourish right through to the end of the year, and I tick it off my list of goals. So for example, instead of saying, okay, my New Year's resolution, my new goals are to invest more this year. That's not good enough. You need to go way deeper with this. You need to think about what it is about this goal that deeply resonates with you. So, for example, you would give this goal so much more detail and definition. You would say, for example, instead of I'm going to invest this year, you'd say, I'm investing $1,000 per month this year into my share portfolio account because I am building long-term financial independence for myself, where I'm going to feel financially resilient and strong. And I'm knowing that I'm going to stand on my own 2 feet with all of my hard work, where I can look back with so much pride and know that it's my own discipline, my own commitment, and my own consistency that has created these results. So by suddenly changing a goal from being something very sort of bland and shallow, you've made it something really electrifying, where it actually lights you up. You get excited. You understand the passion, the vision, the direction behind it, and the value that it's going to add to you and your life and even your energy. And then once you've done that, you go out and automate as much as you possibly can, or where you can't, you intentionally build a habit behind that. You even look at stacking your habits, which is a brilliant hack, so that it becomes so easy. You don't even think about it, you just do it. So, for example, when it comes to automation, you might automate your investing. You might automate your regular investment plans. You might automate those savings. You might automate those extra debt repayment plans. You might automate, say, salary sacrificing to put more money into super. And yes, automation is the successful step for each goal. But sometimes there are things that we can't necessarily automate. And that is where we need to build habits as well. So some great financial habits to have are like reading your goals every single morning or every night or even both. Or for example, checking, your share portfolio or the passive income that you're earning. Or going in and checking your savings in your budget, on the bus or the train on the way to work or on the way home. Reviewing your budget on a regular basis so you can find additional savings opportunities. Or perhaps, you create a habit system where the first of every month you go through your home looking at things you can potentially sell to the second-hand economy. Create the systems that are in positive alignment to those goals actually happening and happening quickly. Even if they only seem like small, simple habits, I can't tell you this is so incredibly important. And you never know what actually happens to you shortly after this. You get an idea or a new source of inspiration or a new connection or a new opportunity comes your way. Now, when you start automating your goals or putting the right habit systems in place, you reduce or remove even that decision fatigue that can sometimes hold you back or keep you stuck. But even better, it actually protects your energy. If you think about it, you're cleaning your teeth. Does cleaning your teeth take energy? No, not really, because it's a habit. You just do it. Your teeth are clean 2-3 minutes later. It's exactly the same with your goals. You find that you've got so much more energy for your goals, for what you're going after, for what you're chasing, because the action required to work on these goals has actually just happened organically. You've just done it through the habit system and automation that you've built, which is exactly what so many of the ideas in this particular episode were pointing towards, but also the fact that it actually fuels you with this amazing sense of consistent motivation because you know your personal why and also the value behind each goal. You've gotten deep, you've gotten passionate, you've gotten connected with those, and you've built the systems and the habits in place so that they do just happen organically for you. And insight number 6, and that is consistency over intensity. This one final concept really does tie everything together for this episode and for what I listened to, and that is consistency. And it is, I think, one of the most insightful tips from a Diary of a CEO. So this is not about intensity and it's not about perfection. It's about consistency. Missing one habit or one opportunity or one session or one budgeting review or one regular investment plan or saving plan or extra debt repayment plan, that doesn't matter. That is actually forgivable. But miss it twice, this becomes a very new, dangerous and self-destructive pattern. So this applies to investing, saving, paying down debt, even learning. If you're reading a financial book every night and then you stop reading it for one night, that happens, that's okay. But do it again for the next night where you forget to read. This is where new dangerous patterns are creeping in. You need to remember it's about keeping the consistency, the progress fueling over time if you want to see results. And it is, yes, those really small actions done on a repeated basis. They are the ones that really do compound financially and psychologically. So do not break your momentum. Forgive yourself once, just once, but refuse to let it happen twice. Once is fine, 2 times in a row is an absolute no-no. The potential break in your pattern is way too dangerous. So if I had to distill a 2.5-hour conversation into a simple single message, it would be this. You don't actually need more goals. You need clearer, more personal goals. You need better systems and better habits, actually high value habits. and you need less overload if you want to see this year flourish for you. Ask yourself, what would my future self be proud of looking back at what I had achieved this year? And write down those answers. Ask yourself also this, what gives me the best return on my energy and my money? Go beyond the dollars. Think about what gives you the best uplift for you and your loved ones, and try and find a way to balance the best of both worlds. And then finally, what can I simplify or transform into a habit to move forward calmly for each of my goals? Goals are not about pressure, even though you may be feeling a lot of pressure on yourself at the start of the year. But they're also very much about direction. They're about creating a passionate purpose for yourself and seeing and feeling the incredible progress in your life that gives you something to feel proud of and proud about yourself. So that when you come to the end of the year and you're done with your goals, you don't feel burnt out. You actually feel steady, you feel strong, and you might even feel a little bit more fuel left in the tank for one last hurrah as we end the year on a massive high together. Now, if you found this episode helpful, please make sure you save it, please make sure you revisit it, and please make sure you send it to a friend. And in this very moment right now, take one small step to do something for your goals, whether it be writing them down, whether it be writing down the detail, or whether it be setting up the system or the habit behind them, because this is how real change starts. And I cannot tell you how excited I am that we get to share this year together, where we are so grateful that we were respected and valued every single minute as an opportunity, as a blessing to work on our goals. This is SugarMamma's Fireplay.